Winter in the Pacific Northwest, always cold and wet. But the winter of 1996 saw an early chill and one of the biggest snowpacks in recent memory. When the warmer rains finally arrive, the melting snow sends runoff to record levels. The Nisqually River goes on a rampage, carrying dirt, rock, and trees downstream. Along the Tacoma Eastern Branch of the old Milwaukee Railroad, a dirt fill leading to the 800-foot railroad bridge is washed away. Although the bridge itself remains, over 350 feet of track is seriously compromised, even for the sure-footed geared locomotive. The Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad, a prestigious excursion and restoration enterprise now operating on this branch, is essentially cut in two. To keep the trains running, 2 steam engines are trucked from the locomotive shops near Mineral Lake to the passenger station in the little town of Elby. The city of Tacoma, now owners of the Tacoma Eastern Trackage, negotiate a loan to rebuild the line. By the fall of 1996, plans for repairs have been approved. The fill is to be replaced with a bridge, much as it was when originally constructed back in 1907. The contractor will need rock and gravel to do the job. Lots of it. In an astonishing moment of logic, the railroad is subcontracted to transport rock from the quarry beside the railroad in Eatonville to the washout at the bridge. Rather than go to the expense of transporting their diesels to the marooned section of track, the Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad decides to simply use the 2 steam locomotives already in place to haul the trains. This is not a test. It is an actual emergency call to service for 2 survivors from the days of working-class steam. These old locomotives will be challenged to once again perform the kind of heavy revenue freight service for which they were designed. The crews will face the same challenges as railroad men of the past. This is the story of the rock trains. Since 1981, the Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad has been a haven for Northwest steam, restoring locomotives with a precision and dedication that has earned them worldwide respect. Rail fans and tourists have come from far corners of the globe to see firsthand the exciting work being done here. Under the genial guidance of master mechanic Jack Anderson, and with the support of the Western Forest Industries Museum, the Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad has made great strides with minimal resources, restoring both geared and rod steam engines and vintage diesels as well. Being a Class 1 FRA railroad, crews are all well trained, so the operation will be in good hands. The primary steam locomotive for the rock trains will be a crew favorite, a rod engine numbered 5, a Porter-built Mikado. In a bit of cosmic irony, the backup engine will be everybody's least favorite, a geared locomotive called the climax.
Well, when we do an extravaganza like 5 engines all on the same day, the climax is the hardest engine to assign to a crew. Everybody else chooses a Shea or a Heisler or a nice rod engine or something, and it's usually the youngest engineer that gets onto 10.
Under lingering darkness, the first train of the day prepares to leave Elby, Washington, home of Mount Rainier Scenic's excursion ticket office. It's a slow 12-mile journey westward to the quarry near Eatonville. The contractor wants to start loading the trains at 7 a.m. With only a passing track at Eatonville, where the station used to be, Number 5 must run around the cars and now tender first drag them 1/2 mile back up the hill to the quarry. The rock crew wastes no time to start loading this unique train. The heavy fog has been slow to lift this morning, leaving the tracks wet and slippery. The locomotive crew knows traction will be a tough commodity this morning. The loading is almost complete. Today's fireman, Carl Klontz, brings up boiler pressure for what promises to be a strenuous 15-mile journey back through Elby and beyond to the site of the washout. Wheel slips. They are hard on a locomotive. The sudden pounding of the piston sucks a lot of cold air through the firebox before the flames can sufficiently heat it up.
Ordinarily, the fireman keeps his ear tuned to the exhaust of a locomotive. If he hears a slip, these are all oil-burning locomotives, he increases his fire rapidly to keep cold air from entering the tube area on the boiler. This cold air hitting those warm tubes can cause some sudden shrinking and start leaking.
construction of the bridge has been proceeding since late summer. It is hoped to have it completed by Christmas. Fortunately for all concerned, the weather has been holding steady even into these cool October days. The section being rebuilt was originally a covered trestle. In 1968, the Milwaukee Road diverted the river in order to replace a portion of the aging trestle with a dirt fill. It took a while, but after 28 years the river reclaimed her original course. Wisely, the new plan calls to honor the river's request and replace the fill once again with a bridge. That's the train signaling to cross nearby Highway 11. The gravel will be used to rebuild some of the fill, the rock to ballast bridge supports. The empty train highballs back to Eatonville for another load. The railroad itself is well over a century old, dating back to 1887. At that time, local timbermen needed to get their logs to Tacoma with its mills and its tidewater port. Their answer was the creation of their own Tacoma Eastern Railroad. The Tacoma Eastern began to provide common carrier services probably 10 years before the Milwaukee took over in 1919. 50 years later, in 1979, the Milwaukee Road passed into history. But logging giant Weyerhaeuser acquired the line, adding the trackage to their Chehalis Western Logging Railroad. When Weyerhaeuser discontinued their railroad operations in 1992, the line was acquired by the city of Tacoma and is now operated by the Tacoma Belt Line. Today, freight service is beginning to get a new foothold with the potential to spread back throughout the old Tacoma Eastern system. In front of the boiler, sitting underneath the stack, is the smoke box. Here the hot gases from the fire collect before being blasted out of the stack by the steam exhausting from the pistons. If you look carefully, however, you'll see puffs of smoke jetting out sideways from the locomotive. Number 5 has been working so hard the pounding exhaust has literally sucked a hole in the aging metal of the smoke box.
Condensation in the front end of the smoke box mixed with the soot makes carbonic acid. What a wonderful chemical to have where steel is present. This acid just eats the metal. The erosion of the flame and the erosion of sanding out the flues takes its toll, and pretty soon you need a new smoke box. Smoke boxes are vulnerable. They're kind of an expendable part.
Number 5 is a 70-ton logging mic, a small version of a classic locomotive style with the 282 wheel configuration. Manufactured by the Porter Company in 1924, she first went to work for the Carlton and Coast Railroad in Oregon as their number 55. Logging locomotives like this seem born to wander, and she was later sold to the Port of Grays Harbor, becoming their number 5. She was retired in 1959 and put on display until being restored by Mount Rainier Scenic in 1985. In addition to her duties on the railroad's excursion service, she has been a popular presence at railfan events, traveling from time to time throughout the Northwest.
85 had her original smoke box. It was thin when we rebuilt the engine in 85, but we figured we could get some service out of it. Our rebuild philosophy is, if there's some life left in a part, why not use that life up and then replace the part, rather than just replacing it for the sake of saying we changed all these bearings. I mean, if there's some life there, use it up and then fix it. So we kept the smoke box and have been patching holes for a few seasons.
Much like steam locomotive crews of the past, a patch is fashioned right here in the field as the train is loaded.
It was nice that the guys at the quarry had their blacksmith shop, and they hammered and riveted a little sheet iron patch for the side of the smoke box.
Because the quarry is on a grade, the train backs downhill for each car as it is loaded. The locomotive lays down a layer of sand in preparation for departure.
Hauling these capacity trains of rock. About 500 tons was the train, which doesn't seem like much compared to the big trains that are hauled on the main lines nowadays. But on a nearly 2% grade, which was steady for 8 miles coming out of Eatonville, it was all 5 to get started. The quarry was on the grade, and they would fill you up and you had to go.
For the second and last trip of the day, we'll honor an invitation from Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad's engineer, Tim Dauber, to see things from his perspective with a ride in the cab. Ascending the grade into Elbe, we catch a glimpse of Alder Lake. Originally, the Tacoma Eastern came right up the center of this valley, now the lake bed floor. In 1944, to satisfy the need for power in a wartime economy, this hydroelectric dam was constructed. Built to service the city of Tacoma, it measures 1,500 feet long and 333 feet high. Its thickness at the top measures 15 feet, while at the base it is 120 feet. As the dam was completed, the valley floor was quickly logged off. Today, with the lake at a very low level, the old stumps emerge. Bleached and preserved by their quick immersion, they create an eerie landscape. With the old route no longer available, the Milwaukee relocated the track up here on the side of the hill. As we drift downhill, we peer into the firebox. Sure enough, water from the boiler is leaking around the tube seals. There is no danger, but the fireman is working hard to maintain pressure in the boiler. As the leaking increases, number 5's efficiency is diminishing. Jack is alerted to the problem by radio as the train continues to the washout with its heavy load of gravel. Side dump cars, like a good wheelbarrow in a shop, were an important, if lowly, part of most railroads. They use air pressure from the locomotive's brake supply line to apply pressure to pistons mounted vertically in the middle of each car. This air system is separate from the brakes. These side dump cars are of a vintage from the 1940s and last served on Weyerhaeuser's Chehalis Western Railroad. This will be the last run of the day. The train departs for Elby. Jack Anderson will be waiting with a pickup truck full of tools from the engine shop at Mineral. Number 5's fire will be damped down as quickly as possible, but it will be well after dark before it will be cool enough to work on.
We did get a bunch of leaky tubes after one trip. I went in the firebox and caulked the leaky tubes. That was fun, and very quietly in the town of Elby. I worked all night to finish up the tube repairs on 5 and get a fire in her.
But by 3 a.m. the verdict is in. Number 5 will not be ready for service.
So when the crew came on duty the next morning, they actually had a different locomotive that they didn't expect.
Climax number 10 will be the locomotive the hostlers fire up. Arriving at 5 a.m., the train crew greets the news with mixed reactions, from whoops of laughter to sighs of disgust.
The climax.
Climaxes have a bad name, and they deserve it.
It beats you absolutely to death to run it. It just...
They were the least expensive, should I say cheapest, logging locomotive to buy. The craftsmanship and refinement on the engine mechanically was not as good as the others.
It vibrates until it'll give you double vision, and it truly will.
They did have this awful balancing problem where the shaft, the cross shaft, the crankshaft would actually bounce the locomotive up and down at certain speeds.
It just shakes you to between 8 and 12 miles an hour, which is about where you have to run it. It just shakes you to pieces.
We found that with number 10, even though Hillcrest welded on some more counterweight onto the crank discs, and we have modified the way ourselves, that there's just no way to get around this bouncing in the speed range of about 8 to 12 miles an hour.
At any instant you think that it's about ready to come apart. Sometimes it does.
So we try to slow down and stay below 8, or we try to come up to speed and stay above 12. And then she's not a bad locomotive for comfort. But going through that transition zone is really a body-hurting experience. She'll jolt you pretty bad.
With the climax on the point, the train of empties departs for Eatonville. There is no question about it. To the uninitiated, the Climax is a strange-looking contraption, almost like a cartoon locomotive.
Don't hit a scratch. So, oh well, that ain't a joint. Now, mine is no hotter than it was, but it's not great.
This Climax had a career in British Columbia at the Hillcrest Lumber Company. Built in Corry, Pennsylvania in 1928, she has the honor of being the second to the last Climax ever built. Although weighing only 70 tons, she was also one of the largest. Originally given the 3 spot by Hillcrest, she was later reassigned the number 10. Although over 1,060 geared locomotives were manufactured by the budget-minded Climax Locomotive Company, most of the general public has never even heard of one. They labored out of sight with the rest of the geared engines in the backwoods or in dirty mining operations throughout North America. Number 10 was officially retired by Hillcrest in 1963.
I can't verify it, but I have heard that when it was up at Hillcrest, they would run it pretty fast. And my understanding is that they'd run it 5-6 days a week and then put it in the shop Sunday and fix everything again so they could run it the coming week. So she was shot pretty regularly.
Power is transferred from the pistons to the wheels via the discs, which are geared to a shaft running down the center of the locomotive. The shaft is then geared to the axles on each of the 3 trucks.
10 has an interesting story. She shouldn't be around. She went through a bad wreck in the late 40s where the train crew lost their air on a hill. They were going down quite a steep grade, and the engine jumped the track, and the log train piled up on top of her. And she was a mess. But she was insured. And so Hillcrest Lumber Company had Vancouver Machinery rebuild her, and they continued to use her. They must have had something about Climaxes at Hillcrest, because they had number 9, a sister 2-truck Climax to the 10, and they used her also.
Often that was done, Jack, because they could buy parts that would fit both engines.
That would be practical, Blackie, yeah. I shouldn't put her down too much. She's a neat-looking locomotive. She's got a nice voice. She's a husky, kind of a bulldog locomotive. Nice machine as far as logging equipment goes. But she's got these idiosyncrasies that kind of take some of the joy out of it.
You'd think a geared engine could handle this load with no problem. But when number 10 tries to take the whole train through the steep Park Junction Y, the 70-ton Climax proves to be a little light on her feet. Number 10 backs down to run around the train and push them onto the bridge. The bridge crew wastes no time moving the new fill around. The oil-fired Climax completes her first day's run without major incident. But number 5 is still not ready to go. Much to the bemusement of the train crew, number 10 will run again tomorrow. The Hostler crew comes on duty at 2 a.m. This morning, the Climax is showing her problematic side. Before departure, a hydrostatic lubricator must be changed out. Equipment and human resources are being stretched.
This is the right one, right? The one on the back line. That's the this one here. Yeah.
In case anyone on the railroad forgets, an excursion sign seen in the cold night air reminds everyone what exactly is going on here. Even with all the extra maintenance effort, number 10 arrives at the quarry only a bit behind schedule. However, by afternoon, it becomes obvious to anyone listening something is amiss with the Climax. A crankshaft bearing is proving troublesome. The crew attempts some quick repairs.
Well, you loosen this, and then screw this in to pull the wedge in this way. Loosen the jam bolt. Yeah, then screw the other one in. So it's a jam bolt here. And then there's a big square head bolt. Okay. Yeah, way loose. I can't move it.
With so much hands-on maintenance required, it's no wonder railroaders felt they had a personal relationship with these Lokies, a Northwest logger's term of endearment. No one knew it at the time, but a lube line is plugging itself with carbon. The piston rings are wearing excessively and will soon fracture, leaving number 10 with only one operational piston. With this, the sound of the locomotive will change dramatically. The load schedule for the project shows no mercy. This trip will be an extra heavy load of armor rock. Creek Quarry is owned by Randall Sand and Gravel of Frederickson, Washington. Perhaps one of the reasons the railroad was first considered to haul the rock could be due to its owner's enthusiasm for railroading. However, bottom line, when all the bills were tallied, the contractor realized a cost saving by choosing to transport the loads by train. Loggers used to remember this as Boxcar Canyon due to an unfortunate accident back in the early Milwaukee days. The wayward piece of rolling stock has, long ago, since been removed. The Big Michelle River Bridge was completed in 1905 as the Tacoma Eastern expanded operations beyond Eatonville. The original wood construction was destroyed in a fire in 1982. In commendable support of the Western Forest Industries Museum and the Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad, Weyerhaeuser's Chehalis Western Railroad rebuilt the bridge that same year. Again, the climax limps into the station. Jack crawls out of number 5's firebox to quickly add shims to number 10's main crankshaft bearing. This must have been the kind of demands placed on crews and steam mechanics on all the old logging railroads. Right in the field, make whatever quick fixes are necessary to keep a locomotive operational, and then quickly return to repairing the locomotive that isn't.
It's hard to imagine that back in those early years, when I was younger and had more energy and strength, that we would actually run this darn machine 7 days a week. It seems impossible now that we could have tolerated that, but we did, and she kept the railroad going for a long time.
In spite of all its mechanical quirks, Jack does have a soft spot for Climax number 10.
Believe it or not, the first steam locomotive I ever ran was this Climax up at Hillcrest. My folks, you know, would take me around to where they could find steam locomotives, and we had heard a rumor up on Vancouver Island that occasionally number 10 was let out to do some fan trips. We happened to be in the right place at the right time, and the current owner, Mr. Ferguson of Vancouver, actually let me and a friend run the locomotive a little bit. That was kind of a strange experience because I opened the throttle for my first time, she started to move, and then by golly she started to hop. And I didn't have any idea what was going on. Hop, 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 hop. And the owner said, well, do you give her more throttle or less? And I didn't have a clue. But we got over the hopping speed and she finally settled down. Yeah, given my druthers, it would not have been a Climax that I would have operated for my very first time.
Since the train crew has gone dead on hours, Jack decides to test out his repairs firsthand as Tim Daubert relieves the firemen. Hold on to your hats, we're climbing on board. For all this engine's theatrics, you'd think we were making a jump to light speed. But, hang on, we're approaching hopping speed. Given their mechanical idiosyncrasies, is it any wonder there are probably only 3 operational climaxes remaining in the entire world?
Well, you sure can tell I haven't been on this engine for a long time.
You want to work with that and I'll get this here. But it's interesting how things come around, because here she is, and I've had an opportunity to rebuild her and maintain her for all these years, and she was the very first one I played with.
That strange sound adding a chill to the night air proves to be a leaky diaphragm in the dumping mechanism on one of the cars. As if taking a cue from the faltering climax, now one of the side dump cars is refusing to dump. Tim tries to assist. As if getting with a program, now a second car is refusing to dump. What at first was a joke now seems like a pretty good idea. For 2 weeks, over 7,000 tons of riprap were delivered by these steam-powered rock trains. To witness steam engines once again in this kind of heavy service has been a rare and fascinating sight. Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad and the old Tacoma Eastern are poised for an era of exciting growth. One wonders, could a moment like this ever occur again?
If freight becomes a reality on this branch, and there have been opportunities and missed opportunities, but should it happen again, there's nothing that rules out using a steam locomotive. I mean, there's no management decision that says freight is diesel and passengers are steam. Heck, if the steam locomotive's hot and there's nothing else to do, take it out and do it. Certainly for a grand opening or an occasional celebration. So our new policy, as far as boiler tube jobs go, is put them in the hole and weld them up.